In this video, you are going to learn how to recreate the amazing zoom effect from the vrtlwrld.io website in Framer. You are going to learn a bunch of super advanced stuff, so make sure to grab my free course if you haven't done that before, because maybe some of these things will be just a bit hard for you to understand, because really we're gonna jump straight into the juicy stuff, all the effects and it's not gonna be easy, guys. But I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be helping you to make this effect somehow. All you need to follow along with this video is just a free Framer account, and you can create that with the link in the description. So yeah, my name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. Okay, so the first step on this long road that is ahead of us is actually taking a look at this breakpoint that I have already set up here. I didn't want to, create it from scratch because this is not the most important part of the effect. This is just basically content laid out on the website. These don't really have any effects or anything, as you can see. So these are just text layers and images placed on the canvas, and here also we have some text. And also you can see on this layers panel that the basic setup is that we have the breakpoint, we have a main frame in that, which is set to fill and auto sizing, and inside that we have this row, which is basically this part here. And then we have this sticky section, which is really long. It has a fixed height, which ends here. And within that, we have this text, which we cannot see right now because it has a white color. But I'm gonna give you a hint. So here it is. But we don't have background on this because the effect is that we scale in an image, which is kind of a dark color, and we will see this text above that. So there will be enough contrast so we can actually see the white text. But yeah, we cannot see it right now because it is on a white background. So yeah, here we have this little text, and then we have this section, which is again not really important when it comes to the effect itself. So we're gonna mainly be working within this sticky section, which also has a scroll section set called sticky. And what you need to understand is it is not actually sticky, so it's set to relative positioning. I just call it sticky section because inside of this we'll have a sticky frame. So let's create that sticky frame that I'm talking about. I'm just gonna draw another frame inside this sticky section, and I'm gonna call this wrap. And within this wrap, we're gonna have the images and all the good stuff. But first, let's set this wrap to 100% of the viewport, and it's gonna be on fill, so it takes up the full width of the website. And we're gonna also remove the fill color from it. And actually, this wrap will be the container or the frame that we will set to sticky. So it will stick to the top of the viewport until we don't reach the end of this sticky section. So one other thing that I want to mention is that, as you can see, this sticky section is set to overflow visible, and also the main is set to overflow visible. And of course the desktop is also set to overflow visible. I don't know why is it. Yeah, now it's visible. It was hidden. So the reason why I'm doing this is to have this sticky section here, and to make it actually work, we have to set all parent containers overflow to visible. So within this wrap, we're gonna have another frame, and we're gonna call this images. And basically within this frame, we're gonna have all the images. So let's just place it here. I'm not gonna remove the fill color just yet. Let's just place these images in first. So I'm gonna just cut them with Command and X and paste them with Command and V. And Then here I'm just gonna make sure that this frame is a stack. So I'm gonna come here to the layout and turn it into a stack. And what I'm gonna do is set the width to fit content and the height to fit content. So now it looks great. Here now I'm gonna just remove the fill color because we don't need that. And the gap that we used on this images stack is going to be 32 pixels. So let's change it to 32 pixels. And now it's much nicer. So let's take a look at the finished animation to just see what we want to do. So as you see, as we start scrolling on the website and we reach this section, this sticky section is actually being sticky here. And when we see this part, when the cards start and the images start moving, this is achieved with scroll transforms. So we're gonna do that. And as you can see also, the image here starts getting an overlay. So it's darker and darker as it starts getting bigger. So we're gonna need to set up some overlays over this image that we can control with scroll transforms later on. But before that, I just noticed that these images are not 40 VH, so the height needs to be 40 VH, and we are gonna set this lock. So now set those overlays up here. I'm gonna draw a frame here and set these pins so it's gonna fill the whole image, and it's gonna be black with a transparency, and the transparency itself will be 75%. And I'm gonna just call this full overlay because it's over the full image, and I'm gonna duplicate it and then make sure that it is not that big. So this will be just 130 pixels high, and we're gonna have a linear fill here, and both points will be this black color, but the point on the top will have 0% transparency. Okay, it's perfect. So now we have these overlays over the image, and now what we need to do is to wrap this image in a stack. So I'm gonna press Option, Command and Enter on my keyboard, and we're gonna call this a mask because we're gonna use this as a mask for the image, because we'll start scaling this image here and we don't want it to be really high, so that way we can actually control its height. So I can actually show you this here. So as you can see, as the image starts scaling, it is not getting higher. Its aspect ratio is actually starts changing, because here we have a portrait image, and as we start scaling it, now we have a landscape image. But how do we do that when we just scaling it? We actually use a mask and we wrap this image within that mask. And so when we scale the image within the mask, it will crop at a certain point. So this is how we get this little landscape as we start scaling the image. So let's go back to the tutorial file and make sure that this mask here is set to absolute positioning, and we're gonna activate these pins. It's gonna be 0 and 0, and this image here, it's gonna be here in the middle by setting this to relative, because this mask, as you can see, has these stack properties, so everything is centered within the container. So we have this image now here. I need to make sure that this mask's overflow is hidden, so the mask will actually work. Okay, it is set to overflow hidden. Okay, I don't know, I changed it to visible. I need to make sure that this mask's overflow is hidden, so the mask will actually work. Let's change it to hidden then. So the mask's overflow is hidden. Okay, and we have this image inside. But what you might notice is that now that we have this as absolute positioning, so the mask is absolute, now this is not part of the flow, and that's why these other images here don't really care about this center image, and they just don't give it enough space. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a hidden extra image here. So I'm just gonna duplicate this, and here now we have in the middle another image. I'm just gonna hide this one on the top, so you can see that we have this white image duplicated now in the middle. So I'm just gonna call this hidden, and I'm gonna remove its fill, and also I'm gonna change the opacity to 0 to make sure that we don't see it. And now if we turn the opacity down, you can see that we don't actually have anything behind this, but still the frame itself helps us to push the other images to the sides. So now that we are finished with this, we can apply a scroll transform for this mask. Let's go to the effects panel, and I'm gonna click scroll transform, and it will trigger when a section is in view, and this section will be this sticky that I was talking about in the first part of the video. You can see it here, sticky section, and it has this little hashtag symbol that shows that it is a scroll section. And as you remember, it is a long section. It starts here and ends here. So the animation itself, the transform that I'm setting right now for the image, will happen from here to here. So let's go back to the mask and specify this scroll transform. So again, it is section in view. The viewport will be on the top. So when the section reaches the top of the viewport, it will start animating, and the from will be 1 opacity, 1 scale, and the to state will be 3.5 scale. So we scale this up a bit, but as you can see, as I start scaling it, that it cuts off here. We're gonna fix this really quickly, but I'm just gonna add a transition here to make sure that it is smooth. So the reason it is getting cut off is because this image's frame is probably set to overflow hidden. So if I set it to visible and now go back to this transform and inspect the to state, you can see that it is not being cut off anymore, which is pretty cool because that's what we want. So now we can actually take a look at what we are doing here. So as you can see, we are scaling this image up. That's it so far. For some reason, it starts like this. It is a bit smaller. So I'm just gonna take a look at why this might be happening. It's because all the other images are set to viewport height. So their height is specified in viewport height, but this mask is set to a fixed height. And that's why it's actually smaller, because it's not changing according to the viewport. So if we change it to 40 viewport height, then it will be the same size as the other images. So that's what we have so far. As you can see, we still have to move the other images to the sides, because if we start scaling a frame with a scroll transform, the other frames will of course not be moving around, so we have to move them individually, but we are going to do that in a bit. But what we're going to do here before that is giving this image another scroll transform, because now as you can see, this mask frame starts scaling up while we still have the same portrait aspect ratio. And I said that we want to get rid of that as we start scaling this up. So now we have this whole frame here that is scaling up. And to get rid of this little aspect ratio, what we're gonna do is also apply a scroll transform only for this image here in the middle. So at the same time, this will be getting bigger and bigger also, but in a faster pace. So it's gonna start filling up the mask frame itself that we are scaling also. So I'm just gonna do it so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So let's apply the scroll transform to this image frame. I'm gonna come here, effects, and scroll transform. And this will also happen, of course, section in view, and we'll use this sticky section. The transition will be, of course, just a simple spring, and we're gonna use from state opacity 1, scale 1. and the to state will be 6 scale. So as you can see, it is much bigger now. So let's take a look at how this looks. And this is exactly what we want. But as you can see, this image is maybe a bit huge when we reach the end of the section. So to counter this, we are gonna wrap this image in another stack, and we're gonna set that stack to actually a smaller scale. So just to show you, because again, it is much easier to show you, we're gonna have this image and I'm gonna have it wrapped in another frame, which I'm gonna call just a simple wrap. And actually this effect that I applied here, this scale, will be applied there. So I'm gonna just copy this effect and apply to this wrap. So paste effects, and I'm gonna also make sure that the height is 40 VH, and I'm gonna make sure that this lock is turned on, and I'm gonna remove this transform from the image for now, just to take a look at if we still have the same effect that we had before. Exactly. So now what we can do is we now have an additional layer, because we start scaling the mask, we start scaling this wrap in a faster scale, because it has 6 scale and this has 3.5 scale. And because this image gets too big, we can have now this image layer and apply another scroll transform here, which will be, of course, sectioning view, top of the viewport, sticky, and the from state 1, opacity 1 scale, and the to state will be 0.3 scale. So here we are actually making it smaller. So if we now take a look at this, you can see that as we start scaling this, the image is no longer that big. So we kind of countered that really big scale effect. So this is now looks really good. What I'm gonna also make sure to do is to animate this overlaying, because now it's just there. So we're gonna have the overlays also animate in. So I'm gonna select both of these and then apply the scroll transform. It will happen again, sectioning view, top of the viewport, sticky, from 1, 1, and then transition is also applied here. And the to state will be, actually the to state will be 1 scale, 1 opacity, but the from state will be 0 opacity, because the normal state, the first state that we see is that the overlay is not there. And then as we start scrolling down, this image starts getting this overlay. So if we now take a look at this, you can see that this image doesn't have the overlay, but as I start scrolling, it slowly starts getting the overlay, which is exactly what we wanted to do. So it's very good. So now I think all we have left to do is to animate the other images out. So let's just apply a scroll transform to them. It's gonna be a really simple scroll transform. Of course, the images on the left will be going to the left and also a little bit to the top, because as you can see, this image is also growing a bit. So I just want to make sure that the top of the images are aligned. So the images on the left needs to go to the left and a bit to the top. So let's again select these and apply the scroll transform. Again, same triggers that we used before. The from state will be 1 opacity, 1 scale. Transition is applied, and the to state will be just a simple offset, which is minus 1500 on the X and minus 550 on the Y. So now as you can see, these are nicely moving away as the center image is scaling. And we basically do the same thing on these, but we're gonna just change this value to plus 1500 instead of minus. So I'm gonna just copy the effects from here. I'm just gonna select one and copy effects, and then I'm gonna select the images on the right and apply the effects. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste the effects, and then I'm gonna make sure that the 2 here is not minus but plus 1500. And now, as you can see, it works exactly the way we want it to work, and it is pretty much responsive, so we don't need to worry about that. So yeah, it's looking nice. So yeah, that's how you can create such a great looking zoom effect on your Framer website by using this scroll transform and also some hidden frames and different effects. So yeah, I hope you liked this tutorial. Make sure to go down to the description because I'm gonna have some useful links. For example, a remix link for this project, so you can take a look at how this is actually built. And I'm gonna also leave a link for Framer University, where I just released a free course, so you can learn from that too. So yeah, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. By the way, I just was thinking, and actually the course might not be released just yet, because I'm recording this in the past and now it's in the future. So it's kind of weird, but it might not be released at the time I'm releasing this video. But if not, then just make sure to go to Framer University, and if you see a little input where you can sign up for the waitlist, then make sure that you are on the waitlist, because then you're gonna be one of the first one who get access to the course. And if it's released, then just click the get free course button and enjoy the course. So yeah, that's it. See you.